So we talked about how God is a personal God and how God wants to have a relationship with us. But because of our sinful nature, well, we can't really have a relationship with God, right? Because sin separates us from God. Sin has created this chasm between us and God. But because God so longs to be with us and so longs to have a relationship with us, God has provided a way to fill that chasm, to bridge that gap, so that we can have communion with Him once again. God is merciful. So I looked up the word mercy because I wanted to see where it came from and what it meant. And it comes from the Latin, right? And the Latin word which means price paid, right? Now, when you look at the Bible, even right from Genesis, right, we have this idea that God says, look, don't eat from the tree that's in the midst of the garden, because if you do, you will die, right? So He's already set up this idea of, there's a command, and if you break this command, there's some sort of consequence to pay, right? And Paul picks up the same message in Romans 3:23, where he says, the wages of sin is death, right? So we have this idea of there's a wage that has to be paid, right? And so when we sinned, quite naturally, the result should have been our death, right? That's the wage that we're meant to be paid. But yet, our paycheck didn't come through. See, in Genesis, we see that Adam and Eve were clothed by God in animal skins. Now, that kind of implies that an animal had to die, right? In order to supply the clothing of animal skins, an animal had to die. So we see that way in the beginning, God has initiated what is called a substitutionary sacrifice. Okay? Before Leviticus came around, before Exodus came around, but way before, we had this idea of a substitutionary sacrifice. Price had to be paid. But mercy says, I don't care who pays the price, as long as the price is paid. So God is saying, instead of you paying the price and you dying, a substitute will die instead. So this whole idea of sacrifice, a substitutionary sacrifice, bleeds throughout the whole of the Old Testament. And when we get to the New Testament, we see what is called the ultimate sacrifice, which is in Jesus Christ, right? He paid the price. He paid the price for us so that we don't have to die because He did for us. Right. And the death that He died was the death of eternal separation from His Father. Right? It wasn't just the death that we suffer here on earth, but it was what is called the second death, right? Where there is no hope of resurrection. There is no hope of being with God ever again. That's the death that He was going through. That's why when He died, there was so much turmoil. And He screamed, my God, why have you forsaken me? Because He felt as if He was never going to see His Father ever again. He was being eternally separated from God for the first time in eternity. Price had to be paid. And because of God's mercy, He said, instead of you paying the price, instead of you having to be the one to make the payment, I'm going to make the payment for you. Right? I love you so much and I want to be with you. And so I'm going to provide the payment so that we can continue to have a communion with one another. That is God's mercy. God's mercy demands for a price to be paid. God's justice demands for a price to be paid. But it also allows for some leeway where you don't have to be willing to pay the price. Someone else can on your behalf. And that's what Christ did for us. God's mercy allowed us to return to communion with Him because someone else paid the price so that we can return to God. That is God's mercy. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like the video, share the video, make sure you subscribe, and as always, think on these things.